We thank you for joining us today, and as you continue to watch the Emmaus Road podcast, and as God continues through His Spirit to teach all of us, we appreciate your responses. We appreciate your emails, your phone calls. We thank you because we know that from those conversations that we get to minister to you, and you get to minister to me as far as what is happening in our lives. We'll take up a subject today that as a continuation on going from being in Adam, all die, to in Christ, all live. And that transformation that has to take place for all of God's creation. Everybody born of Adam has that death sentence on them of being in Adam, the Adam of Genesis, all die. Because we have Adam's DNA, his sin virus in us. We didn't do anything to get it, but we have it. Then we need to go to being in Christ. We can't do anything to get there, but we can get there through God's grace. Not through my actions, but through God's grace and His faith. So He gives me the means and the way to do it. I wasn't a participant in the original act of sin except by relationship, but I am a participant in righteousness because God tells me that He placed me in Christ through faith when Christ was on the cross. So when He died, I died. When He was buried, I was buried. You were buried. When He rose, I rose. You rose. When He ascended, we both ascended. The Bible also says that we are seated with Jesus at the right hand of the Father. So the only way that happens is by grace through faith, not by law keeping, not by do's and don'ts, but by believing. The most repeated Sunday school verse is still the truest. The whole world has to believe. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, everyone who believes, not acts, not works, not does, but who believes. What our problem is understanding what took place for the believer on the cross. If I was in Him through faith at the cross, and He died and was placed in a tomb, rose, ascended, seated at the Father. If He did that and I was in Him, I did all that. You did all that. That means that by me having faith that God has placed me in Christ, I now have a new past. I now have a new future. Well, how can I have a new past? Because in Christ, we died. In Christ, I have to understand that as a sin offering, I died, you died, that was placed in the grave. So we have the death of self. Now, this is the profound teaching of Galatians 2:20. Paul says, I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live. So what was crucified? His old man, his old Pharisaical, law-keeping self that he was raised up in his entire life until he met Christ. That old self that was against God, that old self that tried to destroy belief in God, that old self, that old sinful self, that is what died. Now, does that mean that we're going to never sin again? No. But sin will not dominate or control. We died. Now, the problem being, most of us, as I tried to do for numerous years, I tried to die to self, not understanding that at the cross, I died. I tried to go through asceticism, which is just a nice word for self-denial. You know, you don't do this, you don't do this. If I don't do these things, then that will show the world how much I love Jesus. Well, again, we got the focus backwards. It's not trying to show God how much we love his Son or how much we love the Father. Is, do we understand how much he loves us? Do we understand what he did for us that allows us to have a relationship with a holy God? We take so many scriptures that are liberty-based and make them law-based. You know, one of the first one comes to my mind, be ye holy as I am holy. Well, how can anybody born of the Adam in Genesis be holy? How can a flesh and bones human creation achieve deity? That's the only way that I would be holy, is I would have to be deity. And obviously that's not going to happen. But what that verse is 7 is saying, be ye holy as I am holy, it's not a command, but a factual statement. I am holy, you are holy, because you are in Christ. God placing me in Christ. It's not something I do and try to achieve. It's a place that I am put and a status that I have that God has now declared me righteous, not by my performance. He has declared me sanctified, not by my performance. He has declared me justified, not by my performance. 1 Corinthians 6:11. I am justified, I am washed, I am sanctified, I am justified. Why? How? By grace, through faith, not by works, actions, or anything I may do. It is the gift of God, Romans 1:17, that I receive with joy and gladness by grace through faith. Join us again as we continue discussing on the Emmaus Road podcast.